Now, today's topic is the basics of Bitcoin. I've had a lot of people, since I've been talking about it on Instagram, Snapchat, all my second channel, and podcast, a little bit of mentions and stuff. People have been saying, can you make a podcast or a video where you just explain the basics of Bitcoin to someone who has just heard of it but never looked into it at all and is interested in hearing about it so they can make further decisions on whether they want to look further into it and invest in it or not. So that's what this is going to be. I have tried to explain Bitcoin in a basic way, but I will say that when I just try to spitball it, it comes out as a 20-minute video. So I found a really good article online that I'm going to read you guys that breaks it down to a basics level that you would explain to, like a child or something, just because it has so much analogies. And that's the way I like to be explained to things too. So this, I think, is going to help a lot of people who have no grasp or concept of what this is at all, and kind of give you a place to move on from now that you have this base knowledge. So I'm just going to read it word for word, so it might look a little bit weird if you're watching the video. By the way, if you're watching the video, make sure you check out the podcast, which is Beyond the Podcast. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you check out my second channel, because I have a lot more videos about cryptocurrency there, and I'm doing a lot of extra content there. So that is Humorous Progress. You can find that from the front page of my main YouTube channel. On the right side there, you'll see related channels would be the first one. Now, let me just start and read. Let me just get into this because I'm excited to let you guys know about this, because I'm pumped about it and I want to move forward from this to more complex ideas. So we're sitting on a park bench. It's a great day. I have one apple with me and I give it to you. You now have one apple. I have 0 apples. That was pretty simple, right? So let's look closely at what just happened. My apple was physically put in your hand. You know it happened. I was there. You were there. You touched it, and it's done. We didn't need a third person there to help us make the transfer. We didn't need to pull in Uncle Tom, who's a famous judge, to sit on the bench and confirm whether the apple went from me to you. The apple is yours. I can't give you another apple because I have 0 left physically. I can't control it anymore. The apple has left my possession, and you have control over the apple. You can do whatever you want with it. You can give it to a friend. You can throw it off a bridge. You can do whatever you want. It's yours. So that's what an in-person exchange looks like. And that's pretty simple, right? Now, if we go into digital, right? Let's say we have a digital apple that we want to give. I want to give you my digital apple, but how do I do that? How is it confirmed? How do you know that it's yours now and I don't have any more control over it? Think about it for a second. It's more complicated than just that handover, right? How do you know that before I sent you that digital apple, I didn't send that digital apple to my uncle or my friend or 100 other people? Or how do you know I didn't put it up on the internet for 1 million people to download and then I sent it to you? This is called the double spending problem. And so this was a big problem for a long time when it came to thinking of how to create these cryptocurrencies, is people could totally manipulate it and send out the coin to 5 different people and thus have 5 different coins. Now, this is where ledgers come in. So maybe those digital apples need to be tracked in a ledger. It's basically a book where you track all the transactions on an accounting book. This ledger, since it's digital, needs to live in its own world and have someone in charge of it. So, like for example, like an MMORPG, like World of Warcraft or something like that, Blizzard, the company who created that, has a ledger in their systems, in their networks, that continuously updates, and as users are gaining items in the game and buying this and that, it says, there are 2,055 dragon swords, and one of them belongs to this guy. 15 of them belong to this guy. He traded one away, so now one belongs to this guy. He has 14. It's an updated ledger. But the problem is, Blizzard is the one who has that. So what if some guy at Blizzard created more? He's the guy who's controlling the network and stuff, and what if he just decides to type in 20 more digital dragon swords, and then he sells them? So he could just add a couple of digital anythings he wants to the balance. It's not the same as when we're on that bench and just handing each other physical apples. It was just you and me handing it to you. So going through Blizzard is like pulling in a third party. And then they can do anything they want. They can adjust things, they can deny, they can increase the amount of currency that there is. How can I just hand over my digital apple to you in the usual way? Is there any way to closely replicate that physical handover? So the solution is this complicated looking graph and chart, but what if we gave the ledger that tells the accounting and inventory of where these coins are to each person? What if we gave it to everybody? So instead of it just living on the owner of the network's computers and they can adjust it and play with it any way they want, what if everybody had it? All the transactions that ever happened from all time in digital apples, as we're saying, will be recorded on it. You can't cheat it. I can't send you digital apples I don't have, because then it wouldn't sync up with everybody else's in the system, and they would just reject it because there's a billion ledgers out there, and then mine says I have 100 extra apples today. and then it's going to go out, check them, and then it's all going to go, nope, that's not verified. You don't have those apples. You actually have what all of these thousands of ledgers all confirm, and I'll have the exact same information. That's what you have. So you can't cheat it. It's not controlled by one person, so I know that there's no one that can just decide to give himself more digital apples. That way it defines that there is no possible way to create more coins, at least with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a limited currency that has 20 million coins that will ever be created or mined, and there's only 18 million of them that have been mined or created so far. I'll get into more numbers later, but the code and rules for all of this stuff is open source, kind of like the software used in your mom's Android phone, or kind of like Wikipedia. It's there for smart people to maintain, secure, improve, and check, which allows it to be improved as more people use it, and as we find problems with the system and stuff, it can be learned and improved. So this is really simplified, but you could participate in this network, update the ledger, make sure it all checks out. For the trouble, you could get like 25 digital apples as a reward. In fact, that's the only way to create more apples in the system. So what does the public ledger enable? You're totally cool to come up if you want to, dude. So what does the public ledger enable? It's open source. The total number of apples was defined in the public ledger at the beginning. I know the exact amount that exists within the system. I know that they are limited. Can't be made more of. When I make an exchange, I know that the digital apple certifiably left my possession and is now completely yours. I used to not be able to say that about digital things. So it will be updated and verified by a public ledger to make sure that possession is correct. Because it's a public ledger, I don't need Uncle Tommy to make sure I didn't cheat or make extra copies or send apples twice or thrice. It's within the system. The exchange of a digital apple is now just like the exchange of a physical one. It's now as good as seeing a physical apple leave my hand and drop into your pocket. Just like on the park bench, the exchange involved two people only, you and me. We didn't need Uncle Tommy there to make it valid. In other words, we didn't need a bank to confirm that my debit card swiped or I put it into a payment system and it went through PayPal or something like that as the third party, and they confirm that you said it and yes, and then they take their 3% or whatever it is and then they give it to the other person. All of that is gone. There's no need for a third party. Instead, it's all based off of complicated mathematical problems that are being solved by computers. So the only way that these transactions go from one person to the other is by a bunch of computers all doing all these different math problems and also validating these ledgers and verifying that they are the correct same ledgers as all these different copies. And in that way, the transactions fees are very small. And depending on the coin that you use, because there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin is the one that you've heard of, but there's also Ethereum coin, Litecoin, there's a bunch of different coins. They all have different transaction fees and ways that they work. And so some are cheaper than others. But like, for example, one guy made a point, he was, I forget what he transferred, but it was like $200,000 or something like that. And he transferred it from one wallet to another wallet that he owned just to show the transaction fee. And it was like $1.50 or something, or $2 for $1 million. So it just shows you that instead of you paying $1,500 for this crazy big transaction fee, instead you get to bypass that, and it makes it much cheaper. So that is the basics of why it is a currency that people are interested in to bypass bank systems and any sort of third party. It also allows you to completely control your own money, because say you do something weird that people aren't into or something like that, or say you just go to the wrong protest, or just whatever it is, something happens where you can violate what the government wants you to do, and they can then freeze your assets. Like, for example, if you default on a loan, if you don't pay a certain amount, or I forget, there's other ways or whatever, they can start to, what's that damn word, garnish your wages. Meaning that they can go to your bank, take your money out of your bank because the bank has a deal with them, and stuff like that. And so literally your money that you think is your money is not actually your money. The money that you put in the bank isn't actually your money either. It's a guarantee that the bank will pay you back this loan that you've given them, but it's not a guarantee that that money is your money. Meaning that if they decided to, they could decide not to pay out your money. They could come up with some sort of terms and say, oh, your money's going to be ready for you in 90 days. Whatever it is. It takes away the control from your money when you give it to banks. Also, we're always printing new money. We're always printing more USD. So the amount of units of the currency is increasing always, which makes the currency that you already have become devalued over time because there's more of it. So your one is now one of, it makes it so that it's less valuable. It makes it so that each one is half as valuable over time because there's twice as many dollars out there. The thing with Bitcoin is that it is set to go to 21 million total coins. You can never create any more after that. That's the way that it's coded. The algorithm and everything, you just cannot make any more coins after that. It gets more difficult to mine the coins as we get close to that number. Right now, I believe we're somewhere around 18 million coins mined. But an important fact that I just heard from somebody guy that was on MSNBC is he mentioned that since the beginning of Bitcoin being created, because nobody really thought it was going to be worth tons and tons, they thought it was going to be worth quite a bit less. A lot of those coins were purchased and then lost on computers that crashed or hard drives that weren't secured or whatever else it is, fires, floods, etc. Those Bitcoin can't. It's not like there's any administration. There's nobody that runs Bitcoin. Nobody. There's no staff. There's nobody that you can email and be like, hey, I've got a problem I want to figure out. Nobody owns it. So even though we know that those coins are never coming back and they're out of circulation and they will never be able to be recovered, they can't just say, oh, those coins are gone, so we're going to be able to replace those with new coins. They're just gone. At the current time, I forget the website the guy mentioned, but he said at the current time, if you check this website, it shows you all of the public ledgers from all of the coins that are being traded so that you can see how many coins are really actually in the market being traded back and forth. And there's just an average of about 5 to 6 million coins that are being traded, meaning that a good significant portion of those coins are out of circulation. For example, Satoshi had 1 million, the guy who first created Bitcoin, who literally does not have any part in it at all anymore. People can't even find Satoshi or anything. They think he's dead. He had 1 million coins at the beginning that he reserved for himself. People think he's dead, which means if he is, 1 million coins are gone. There was a problem a while back in the beginning of Bitcoin where this big exchange website went rogue and gone, and I think they took like 5 million coins with them. A lot of these different things have happened, so it just decreases and increases the amount of coins that are out there. So even at 21 million in circulation, it makes it so that if you buy Bitcoin now and it does decide to continue being valued by people and people buy it and use it, especially as new innovations are created for them to actually use it as a currency, it would mean that 21 million is a scarce point where as more people get into it, each coin becomes more valuable because there's only so many of them. But when you drop that down to only 5 million coins, it quadruples or more the value of it. It makes it so that the value of each of those 5 million coins is even higher. So theoretically, a lot of people are saying 100,000 by 2020, 200,000. John McAfee, the guy who has McAfee, the anti-spyware program that you probably heard of on the computer, the guy who originally made that and sold it to some other guy, he has all this money in Bitcoin and stuff. He predicted that it was going to get to $100,000 by the end of 2020, or he would eat his dick, is how he literally quoted it. He would eat his dick on camera or on TV or something like that. And then recently, just last month, he decided to update his idea of where the price is going to go. And he says if it doesn't get to $1 million, I believe, by 2020, he said he's going to eat his dick on television. And so that just shows the complete trust and envision that these people have and faith that they have that this will continue growing. And I can't guarantee you that the coin is going to grow, but the amount of people that are interested in it compared to the amount that will be interested in it is huge. There's only so many people that are into it, and you've seen this huge rush from $1,000 or less to $10,500 now. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, don't buy now. It's going to correct, it's going to go down, and it's going to be all gone, and you're going to lose all your money. I personally think that $10,000 in the big picture, when we look at this in a couple years, we're all going to be going, you could have gotten in at $10, $100, $1,000, or $10,000. Any of those that you would have gotten in on, you'd still be rich by now, and I wish I would have. And so for me personally, I think it's something that is smart to invest in. So there's my basics of Bitcoin, and now you should have kind of an idea of how it works. If you do want to purchase Bitcoin, the easiest, simplest way that they have come up with is a exchange site called Coinbase.com. It's also attached, and its partners, it is the same company, GDAX.com. GDAX is a lot more advanced version. It looks like a stock trading website, so that's for people who kind of have a further understanding of how the charts look and the candles and all this kind of stuff look. But GDAX makes it so that it is, I think, free or very small transaction fees for buying and selling Bitcoin. Coinbase, where you have the same account as GDAX, but Coinbase is like a more user-friendly, fun, easy way to look at it all. And I do believe that it's like a 2 or 3% transaction fee, but the reason is that it's so simple and easy to use. So if you feel like doing it without the fees, then use GDAX. But honestly, 2% is going to be like $3 for 500 or more dollars worth of Bitcoin. So it's honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. That is the most simple way you can get into it. Like my dad is going to get into it, told him download the Coinbase app. It's simple. Instead of getting into all these other crazy, confusing different ways you can buy it, Poloniex and all these different exchanges and stuff, Coinbase makes it easy. They have an app and you can just buy it. So if you're interested in that, definitely use my referral link. I'm not even ashamed of saying that, man. Use my referral link. It gives me $10 when you buy $100 or more worth of Bitcoin, and it gives you $10 as well. It just takes like a week for them to verify and send it into your account. But yeah, if these are helping you and if you're getting into Bitcoin, I would definitely appreciate if you use my referral link. I'll continue to update you guys on what my plans are, what my purchase ideas are, different programs, coins, and things that I'm getting into. I'm looking into a lot of different things right now, but I'm not even going to start talking about them because I only have a minute left on this camera. But I have a lot of exciting new things coming up. So if you guys would like to hear about anything else in the cryptocurrency world, in the Bitcoin world, anything like that at all, just let me know. I would love to teach you guys more about what I've learned, show you guys more of all this stuff, and kind of like clear up the kind of confusing dust that is unsettled when it comes to looking at all this cryptocurrency stuff. Before I end this video, I just want to mention that as well as Bitcoin being a currency that you can use to invest, buy, hold, and then make money off of, it's actually literally it's made to be useful, something that you can use on a day-to-day basis. Some stores like Subway have actually made it possible for you to purchase your items with Bitcoin. A lot of countries who have a inflating dollar that is really ruining the country's economy are now using Bitcoin and investing large amounts of Bitcoin so that they can keep the value of their money, so that it doesn't continue inflating each day and becoming worth less. There's also a lot of talk about huge investment companies selling futures, which is like a contract that guarantees that another company will purchase Bitcoin at a certain price in many years, which pretty much bolsters the price up for Bitcoin even more. And there's tons of traditional money going into Bitcoin as well, and mainstream people learning about it right now. So that tells me there's a lot of money going in, and again, a finite amount of coins, which means the coins will go valuable, hopefully. Now I'm telling you right now, I'm not a professional investor. This is not professional investment advice at all. This is my opinion. This is my fun. This is not something you should take as professional advice right now. This is a legal disclaimer. You can't sue me or I'll sue you. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it kind of cleared up some thoughts. I hope you know more about this. And again, let me know what you want to see in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.